Welcome. Today's Instructional Subcommittee meeting, Monday, June 17th, 2024. Deb, may I get a roll call, please?
Mr. Dias?
Here.
Ms. Larrabee?
Here.
Ms. Pereira?
Here.
Salute to the flag, everybody.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Pursuant to the open meeting law, any person may make an audio or video recording of this public meeting or may transmit the meeting through any medium. Attendees are therefore advised that such recordings or transmissions are being made whether perceived or unperceived by those present and are deemed acknowledgeable and permissible. Okay, before we actually jump right into 303. There's no citizens input, right, Deb? Sorry, I missed it at the bottom there. So before we get into 301, can we just do quick introductions for Mr. Dias here? It's his first subcommittee meeting. Sure. If you don't mind, just quick.
Hi, I'm Dr. Kim Lilliberty. I'm the Director for Science for the district.
Stephanie Kennedy, Director for ELA.
Lisa Zagarella, Director for Multimedia Daughters.
Good evening, Cheryl Patterson, Director of Math.
We had Dan, who's also.
Cheryl, Director of Health and Physical Education.
You can sit at the table, Dan.
Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.
Come on down, Dan.
You gotta sit at the table.
So we're going to start with 3.1, platform data usage, student outcomes. Dr. Curley, will you be starting, or are you just going to report?
Sure. So I'll just give a general overview. In addition to student performance data that we collect through our benchmark assessments and things like that, we do track student progress over the course of the year based on student participation in our platforms, and also it captures student outcomes data. So much of what you'll hear today will be focused on those platforms, either because we've subscribed to a platform that provides some kind of instruction and we're measuring progress that way. Sometimes it's because we, in the case of science, we might talk a little bit more about some of the benchmarks we've been creating and student outcomes there. This is, part of a cycle for us. We do this throughout the year with district benchmarks and also periodically through our benchmarking system on the platforms. Some of the work that we do is provided for us through our meetings with the providers themselves. We have, might be quarterly meetings with some, might be by trimester with others, or we'll do beginning, middle, and end of year kind of benchmarking. And we're having those meetings with our partners, the people who are working with us on the other side of those platforms. Some of the stuff is generated internally. All of it is looped through schools as well, through PLCs and meetings with principals and things like that. So it seems like the first thing that's here is high dosage tutoring in the form of, it's for math, yes.
So you'll go to this packet right here. Even though high dosage tutoring isn't one of the digital partners that we utilize, we wanted to put it on the agenda simply because we will have schools that are applying. They've already applied to utilize this next year. We're just waiting for approval. High dosage tutoring is offered through DESE, and they have multiple providers who could do the tutoring, but we opted to go with Carnegie because we're familiar with them. We know how they utilize the platform for tutoring. The way it functions is students are placed in a group of 4 with one tutor who they remain with throughout. Our schools did it for the half year. They were in round 2. We had 4 schools that participated, 3 of the larger middle schools and Bonsica. So they took pre-assessments and then post-assessments. All of the students showed, for both of the grade levels that participated, it was geared towards 4th grade and 8th grade. We had a specific syllabus that we followed, and Carnegie accommodated us. We wanted to customize the 8th grade syllabus, and they did that. So both grade levels showed approximately a 25-point increase. If you went into the full report by chance, they speak in percentages like 153% growth. I'm speaking in terms of points because that's how we normally provide the data. They set a goal of 75% for attendance, and every school achieved that, with Fonseca having the highest of 92%. The middle schools averaged in the high 70s. So the highlights for grade 4, as I said, were 92%, and we have green that's applied to do the tutoring for next year. So the feedback from the students was all positive. They really enjoyed meeting with their tutors. The fact that they were able to meet the same tutor all year long. It was monitored by 3 or 4. It was either in 3 or 4 people, either an instructional support liaison or a paraprofessional. In some cases, we had math educators who were there if time was in their schedule where they had a WIN intervention and they could utilize it. So, all positive results. You'll see that we did small group instruction there, and again, I'll revisit it when we talk about hybrid.
Any questions?
Anybody have any specific
Dias?
questions? Yeah.
Just a quick question. So if we continue this program, it's gonna be for the 4 schools again.
So it'll be for the same 4 schools, and then Green has also applied to do it. Again, it goes through DESE, they do the approval, they approve who the provider will be, and all funds go through them directly to the partner.
And this is one last question.
Yep.
When it says unique students, is that students that may have a need with?
So we identified 40 students in each grade level in each school, and they were students who were on the cusp, and we wanted to push them over into meeting.
Okay.
Yep.
I yield. Thank you.
Anything else? Nope. I have one quick question, Ms. Patterson. So this program, this digital program only works with Carnegie? Is that?
So DESE has usually 3 to 5 providers who can do the service. They had ST Math, they had Carnegie, I don't remember the other 3.
Okay.
I know one of them dropped out because of the capacity. So many schools were applying in the district, and they could not service anyone else
Okay.
at that point. So, yeah.
All right, so our students who are not part of ST Math doesn't take part in this? Is that accurate? Am I missing?
So they're totally separate, right?
Okay.
It just happens that the people who provide who are our digital partners here, happen to be people who provide the service through DESE.
Okay,
So when you apply for it, you get to identify who you most likely would like to see provide that service.
Okay.
We identified Carnegie because I was familiar with Clear Math. I work with the facilitators, they provide PD.
Okay.
It was just an easy transition for us to work with them.
I got it now.
But then
Okay.
but DESE was the person who decided that we could go with Carnegie.
got
I
it.
just have one question.
Yes, Ms. Pereira.
Thank you. You said Green School was applying?
Green applied this year.
Okay, so what do they need from us in order to get this? They just need us to approve
Nothing
this,
right
which
now.
will be, nothing right now?
Nothing.
Okay,
We just wanted to show you the data,
Okay.
and that small group tutoring
Great.
does work,
Okay.
even
Right.
in a virtual
I
setting.
just
Well,
don't want
that's
to wait
clear,
last
yeah.
minute if there's an application process that we're not
They bring
approving
it up.
and the state is, let's make sure that we're like ahead of the game.
Can this ever be, can this ever be expanded to more students?
Two more students
Yeah.
within a building.
Within-
Right now, they only have the capacity for about 40
40,
within a school.
all right.
And they're only supporting grade 4 and grade 8 in math. I'm not sure what
Yeah.
they're doing in the other content areas.
Okay, thank you.
Great.
Middle school ESL, is that what we're doing, or are you doing?
Nope, we're
gonna
going
keep
right to ST Math.
All right,
So what you see in front of you, it's labeled Digital News Puzzle Progress. On that page, this is ST Math. So ST Math is a digital provider that we use to enhance the core curriculum, which is illustrative mathematics. We use this in grades K to 5. There's no language involved in the puzzles. What will happen is after students complete the puzzles in small group, teachers will connect the language to the puzzle that students were working with, either in small group or they'll do it as a whole group and then make the connection to the core materials and the puzzles that they're doing. Last year was the first time that all schools utilized ST Math. Prior to that, we only had 4 schools, As you can see in the data table in front of you, we've had gradual progress every year. Our goal is always to meet over 80%. This year was the first year that we had 3 schools that have exceeded 100%. We have a couple of schools that have not, even you see the dip with one school, but that particular school was piloting something, so I expected the other.
What were they piloting?
iReady.
iReady, there you go.
And you'll see with the other school, it really is because they had a math lead the previous lead, and this year they just don't have that additional support, but they're still utilizing the program. Each school celebrates in many different ways. We introduce at the beginning of the year the program, try to get students really hyped up for it, and then based on goals that we have throughout the year and end of year celebrations as we go through. So,
Any questions?
Yeah, this,
Mr. Dias, go ahead.
Thank you.
that's okay.
So this is a program, so they're like a contract we would have to approve something?
This is a contract, so iReady, ST Math, and Carnegie Coaching will come before the full committee in July
Okay, thank you.
for renewal.
I yield.
Thank you. Next. Elementary newcomer.
No,
no.
sorry, it's still math, I'm trying to go
Well,
through
I
all
read it.
Someone
wrong.
does it like
Yeah,
math.
She's kind of smart.
Reading it on the computer is different.
Yeah, it
I
is.
thought it was all different packets, so
Oh, okay, yeah.
computer was different than packets, but go ahead.
So this slide in particular is, you'll hear me talk about Mathia and you'll hear me talk about Carnegie Coaching. The two of them are tied together. Carnegie provides the text, it's the Carnegie Learning text, but Mathia is the digital component that supports it. So it's very different than other programs where it enhances the core curriculum. They're tied together. You can't do one without the other one. As you can see, our Mathia data has increased overall by 10%. I tried to highlight specific schools that were here. We have Doran, Cuss, and Durfee that had the increase of percentage points. Doran went up 19.5, Cuss 14, and Durfee 10. Schools with the highest syllabus completion, our goal always is to be above 70. That's what Carnegie will ask. I set a short-term goal this year of falling above 60. 5 out of the 8 schools fell above 60 this year. And then the 3 that have the highest syllabus completion are Doran, Henry Lord, and Talbot right now. Does anyone have any questions about that before I talk about coaching?
Anything?
There's specific workspaces the students have to work through. That's how they achieve the data. And the workspaces range, we have grades 6 through 8, and then we have the high school Algebra 1, Geometry, and Algebra 2 using it. The number of workspaces range from 81 to about 137, depending on the grade level that they're in. So if I am in Algebra 2, then I have 82 workspaces. If I am a 6th grader, then I have 127 workspaces. So that's how the percentage is calculated for them.
And it goes by workspaces.
And it goes by
all by
that,
all by
yeah.
workspaces.
And they, each grade level has a calendar that they follow. The Mathia days are identified on the calendar. And the goal is, while students are working in Mathia, we pull small group support with the teacher.
Ms. Pereira?
So what do you think the barrier is here for not having the higher than, 60?
The completion,
Yeah.
higher than 60. I think it's new teachers,
Okay.
understanding the curriculum, balancing between a textbook and the digital component.
Okay.
And once they're in the digital component, they really do have to, the teacher has to go through the workspace and then pull students in small group. So that's where we are. We've seen an increase in the number of educators who are pulling small group right now. We just need to do targeted support on the 3 schools that need the extra coaching.
So we're looking into that to see what we can do to support those teachers to make sure that they're.
Yeah, so
'cause it
right
sounds
now,
like-
the next steps are, some meetings have already been set up. I'll meet with leads and principals, either in the summer or at the start of the year. They've all looked at the data and they know that they have to set goals before we meet.
Okay.
Does
And
every,
then, yep, I'll tie it to the coaching support through Carnegie too, because they'll work with them.
you can go ahead, Mr. Dias. You can go first.
Thank you. Does RPA use this, for this
Yes, they
data
do.
as well? Oh,
Yes, they do.
do you know what their, off the top of your head, what their percentage completion is?
It is below 50%, yeah.
Thank you.
You mentioned new teachers, so does every platform have a different structure for how many hours
Minutes.
coaches are supposed to meet with the new teachers?
You mean
Or
the
is-
leads or?
The leads, or whoever's supposed to be coaching, is it coaches, leads? Whoever's supposed to be coaching, does every platform have a minimum number, a maximum number of new teachers who need to be coached? Is there an hours component?
So
Is
we have a
a
specific
weekly-
number of minutes that students should be in the program. And then when we sit down and we develop coaching cycles, what we'll do is we'll identify who might need more support. A veteran teacher would need less support. We're identifying model classrooms that can help with that process. So we have two classrooms identified from Mathia, where we'll have a teacher
Right.
who was like a teacher lead in that position and support the coaches in the building with that.
Okay.
But there's no set specific number of hours. It's really individualized based on the educator that's in that room.
So this differs. I think what I'm trying to say, so when these new teachers, this might get off a little bit in instruction, when we have these new teachers, is it once a month that they're supposed to be coached, and this is completely outside of all curriculum?
You're
Is
talking
that
about mentoring.
Mentoring,
Yeah,
coaching,
teacher
but that
mentoring.
doesn't really target instruction,
That's different.
correct?
Well, it's for
Okay.
them to build their capacity,
Okay.
planning, et cetera, but that's a totally different.
And-
All new teachers
Okay.
receive a mentor that they work with.
Right, and that's supposed to be what, once a month, once
Yes,
every
they
2
meet
weeks?
with them.
There's
Well,
a minimum number of hours that they're supposed to be.
Okay, but that's completely different from
this is
this
in addition
instruction
to, in
coaching
addition
that I'm
to.
asking
Right,
about.
this
Okay.
coaching that they receive is either from the math lead in the building or
Okay.
the Carnegie coach who's there to support.
And it all, everyone is different, so ST Math is different, Carnegie is different on the hours?
Yes.
And, or is it just by need? You just go by need, by what, by observing the teacher, or is there a minimum hour, or?
It's based on observing the teacher and
Okay.
meeting with the teacher and collaborating to see where they need the support, where the lead
Okay.
thinks they need the support.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I just have one more. I think what Mimi is saying, if
Trying to
I'm
say.
agreeing with her, I believe, is that maybe we should have a process that when we hire a teacher, part of that onboarding is, if you're gonna be teaching math, then let's get some orientation. Because I know when we first buy these curriculums, right, everybody gets an orientation and what have you, but then when we go on to hire other teachers, if the question is, well, it's a new teacher and they're not really familiar with the curriculum, or maybe how to use Mathia or the online, platforms, which is
Yep.
totally understandable. They might not have a class in Mathia in college, I'm sure, right? So fine. But we should be giving them, I think, some sort of, even if it's mandatory, you have to sit down and do an hour of Carnegie, whatever, virtual learning on the platform or something. And I think that it's gonna benefit them. I certainly would wanna have that before I had to start using something online.
Oh.
So maybe that's something that, I don't know.
Does that happen
about.
now? or
So
no?
I agree
Yes.
with you.
Yeah.
It does,
It
it
does.
does
There you go.
happen when they
Okay.
come in and they do orientation within the school.
Okay.
The leads will sit with them and they go through the program with them. They make sure that they understand all the components of it. And
Okay.
then we'll also offer additional training with ST Math or with Carnegie. When the coach comes in, they provide that type
All
of
right,
support.
so it's like a learning, they do get that, but
Right.
it takes them a minute to, which
Mr.
is
Di-
understandable. Okay.
Mr. Dyer.
Thank you.
Just a follow-up on that, when it takes them a minute, like how long would
Yeah.
it take a teacher to get caught up to speed on all these different curriculums?
After the first session, when they go through the program, they get a good sense. And because they're in it every single day, it really happens quickly. But they'll receive continued support throughout the year with the
So-
school-based.
So within the first couple of weeks, if
They
they're
get
like
a
a new
good sense of what
hire,
the
and
program
if it's like-
offers, yeah. But it takes time to be in it when you're lesson planning. They're in it more than me, more than leads, so, yeah.
I think it takes them weeks or months to familiarize themselves with the curriculum, whether they're teaching ELA, math, whatever. But if you're a teacher, you're learning all the time, and every single day they're learning something new, and it takes them their career, and they're building themselves up every single day. They need support. Don't forget, especially with the new teacher, we're talking about new teachers, they're learning content and they're also learning pedagogy they've never taught before. They're learning how classroom management, all of that other stuff we're asking them to do, and we're asking them to become experts in their content, right? So we have a responsibility to coach them up and support them. And that's not that, that's uncomfortable at times, right? Because they want to do their work, but we need to support them because we're asking a lot for them a lot for them to do.
No, that makes sense. No, thank you. I really do
You're
appreciate
welcome.
Thank you.
You still with me?
I'm with you. I'm just flipping the page.
The next set of slides, you're going to see 3 slides around secondary coaching. So the first slide really just references the resources. What happens is when there's a coaching cycle that's happening, the Carnegie coaches will go in, they'll work with teachers, then they will go in, observe, and collect data. We do not have any data that identifies any teachers. All of the feedback that's given to the leads, the principals, and myself is really just about the school holistically and where their areas of strength are and where next steps will take place with the coach and for the lead. So this right here, it really just shows you with the blue and the green bars, it will show you where we were last year in terms of utilizing the resources and where we are this year. What we wanted to see is that the non-CL resources decreases based on the support that they receive from the coaches in the building, showing them that instead of going to another resource, if you look through and you have a really good understanding of what Carnegie has to offer, there are materials in there that can replace what, instead of going outside.
That's good.
Yes, I'm happy with the
Yeah,
notes.
yeah, that's good.
If you go to the next slide, this is focused on planning. So there are 2 pieces I'll talk about, planning and discourse. And what happens is we obviously want to see planning move to level 3. You can see the comparison between last year and this year and how we've progressed. You'll notice a difference in the way the data is reported. In school year 22-23, you see Q3 and Q4, and then for this year you only see Q3. That's because what we noticed was the coaching that was happening after April was not as effective as we wanted it to, just because of scheduling with MCAS. So when I met with Carnegie, I asked for all the dates to be moved up, met with the leads, informed the principals. So really all of the coaching was to take place before April 11th. Some of the schools would get it. For example, if you look at a school like Durfee, due to its size, they were receiving coaching twice a month, 2 days back to back. That way they could cover more teachers or spend more time with one individual teacher. The other schools received coaching for a full day, 1 day a month, with the exception of RPA and Stone, which split the day because of their size and the number of teachers.
Any questions? Okay.
And then the next one, it's the same, the data is represented in the same way. This is focused on discourse. So when the coaches are working with them, they're planning, making sure that they're identifying or scripting questioning that they'll be using during their planning process, or identifying teacher moves that they can use in order to increase discourse as you go through. So last year at this time, we were at 0% in level 3. This year, we're at 25%. You good? Good. All right, iReady. So this year, for the past few years, we've had iReady in grades 6 through 8. You'll see the data that I have on here represents 6, 3, and 5, and that's because we decided to pilot in grades 3 and 5. When students are involved in iReady, they take a diagnostic assessment 3 times a year. They do it the middle of the year, beginning of the year, middle of the year, and the end of the year. And really what this does is it shows us their placement in terms of the mathematical domains, and it also tells us their grade level placement in content when they were reported. I'm happy to say that all grade levels, 6th, 7th, and 8th, increase the number of students who are above or on grade level, and we decrease the number of students who are 2 grade levels or more behind as we go through. I can provide a follow-up slide, so you know I was waiting for them to finish the end-of-year diagnostic. The data that you see, I've extracted, and then I met with iReady today because they have all the finalized data for you. Grades 3 to 5 does not have a specific intervention program for grades 3 to 5. So a few principals had reached out. They knew that I was going to be exploring curriculums programs to use in grades 3, 4, and 5. I reached out to our partners through the HQIM grant. DESE partnered us with Student Achievement Partners. I could not find an intervention program that had a diagnostic for placement. They searched, they could not find another one. I wanted to proceed with iReady, but I wanted to make sure there wasn't anything out there else that was offered. They could not find anything. So we proceeded with 2 schools. I met with the principals, I met with the leads. They were Watson and Henry Lord. Watson wanted to focus on grade 3, and Henry Lord wanted to focus on grade 5. So we piloted that with the teachers in the second half of the year. They came in, they presented professional development to 2 teachers and a lead in each school, and then they piloted it to approximately 100 students for the data. Same thing, the students on grade level, at grade level or above increased, and the number of students who were 2 grade levels or more below decreased as you go through. So I've highlighted 6, 3, and 5 because 6th grade at the end of the year, I worked with one of the middle school's principals to do a very short-term intervention model for them. It was to see if it had impact for next year, so we could use that model in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, but it was also to support that school because they were struggling with interventions in mathematics. As you can
No, it's okay. No, finish.
That's all right.
I always see it.
Okay, you sure? If you look at the grade 6 data, you can see that we've increased in the right spots and we've decreased in the correct spots. So the green on the left shows you the students who are at grade level or above. The red on the right shows you the number of students who are 2 or more grade levels below. And the yellow is for 2 grade levels.
Right.
So you can see in 6th grade, we went from 10% to 21. And then as you go to grade 5, we went from 21 to 41. And then for grade 3, we went from 10 to 34 on grade level or above. For our L students in grade 6, I'm specifically just going to talk about grade 6. Our number of students who were at grade level or above went from 1% to 5, and the number of students who were 2 grade levels or more below went from 96 to 86. Our students with different abilities, we went from 2% to 6%, and then we went from 91 to 84. So the small group instruction, when they're using iReady, they should be doing a center rotation using 2 stations and doing small group instruction as we go through. So the goal is to tighten that up next year. I'm working with iReady to formalize a quote so we can have it in both, in the middle school, 6 to 8, and the elementary school, 3 to 5. We're just tightening up the numbers around the number of users who are actually participating in the interventions. And then you'll see that quote come through in the July.
Thank you. Just
Yes, Mr. Dias.
Thank you. Just quick questions on the data itself. So for the 6, 5, and 3, so this is data. So I'm assuming the tops, as you just said, the tops beginning of the year, bottoms the end of the year.
Yes.
Okay. And what schools were covered by this? Did this diagnostic? Was this?
So these are any student who is in grade 6, any student who's in grade 6, 7, and 8th grade, district-wide,
Okay.
does the diagnostic. In grades 3 and 5, it was just Watson and Henry Lord, and it was only for a small subset of students, 100.
So 3 and 5 was just Henry Lord, and 6 was everything.
Yep, so Henry Lord, the data from grade 3 is theirs, and grade 5, the data is from Watson.
You think maybe in the future we might look into maybe expanding the search, maybe getting more different schools involved in doing this diagnostic?
Yes, so the goal for next year will be to have every elementary school in the district, grades 3, 4, and 5, do iReady, if it's approved by the school committee. And they'll utilize it only in their intervention classes. So students will then have the opportunity to work in iReady, or they could be in ST Math with, or they could be using resources from the core curriculum.
Okay, so every student would be tested with iReady. it's your
Yes.
goal that every student's tested, and if there's a need for intervention, then they'll act.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. We're good.
Thank you. Kennedy?
So now we have, yeah.
Grade 1 ELA, Night 1-to-1 tutoring. We're up at the top.
Oh.
ELA, up
Okay.
top.
Big night tutoring.
Seventh
Sorry, I was
bullet
looking at the
down.
bottom. Okay, so I handed out a sheet that looks similar to this, or Deb sent it to you.
Just now.
Yeah. And then you have a packet of a couple of slides that have on the cover monthly data review and the word Ignite in the right-hand corner.
Here we go.
Okay.
Ready?
I think so.
All right.
So last year around this time, we were notified that we had received a grant through the 1-8 Foundation to allow 300 of our first graders to have one-on-one virtual tutoring 5 days a week for 15 minutes daily. And we decided that we were going to have those 300 seats live in 6 schools. When the program started, the students took a baseline assessment and were placed on a continuum, which is this continuum, the one that I just gave you, this one. And so students took a diagnostic and then they were placed as to where they were in the beginning of the school year. And then instruction started from there with these 15-minute sessions. And students go through protocols or focused on a particular skill. And when they pass the exit test for that particular protocol, they move into the next protocol. Before we started the actual teaching, the schools looked at the data along with someone from the Ignite company, and they discussed SMART goals for students. And so if students fell into a particular bucket, they created a goal for that student as to where they would exit at the end of the school year. Then we started. We've gone through 5 cycles, inquiry cycles over the course of this school year. And after every cycle, there are meetings with the teachers, the school-based champion who is the literacy lead, the principal, and the Ignite data woman. And they talk about the students like individually. So how is Johnny doing? What's going on with Johnny? How are you seeing this come alive in class? There are students that are ready for graduation. There are concerns, whatever might be happening. And so we've run through 5 cycles at this point during this school year, and we have some really great data to show for that. We have, the first goal that they had was that students had to be in session for 75% of the time, so there was an attendance goal similar to what Ms. Patterson was saying at 75%, but our actual at the end of the year was 90%. So 90% of the time, our first graders were in seat with their tutor, which was really great. We had a 75% pass rate, so that means when they came to the end of a protocol, 75% of the times kids would pass that, and if they didn't, they cycled back in for a reteach, and then they would take the exit test again to go into the next protocol. And we had a high accuracy rate, so when kids did pass the exit test from that protocol, they were scoring at about 86%, which is high. So by the end of the school year, 78% of our 300 first graders had met or exceeded the SMART goal that was set for them in the beginning of the school year. So I can speak specifically to buckets of students. And so I'm just
Can I
gonna.
ask a question before?
Yeah, of course.
So what happens to the students outside of the 76% and don't pass it the second time, third time? What happens to?
They still go in for a reteach, they teach it in a different way, and there are still students that are stuck in a protocol.
Right.
I'll give you an example. The first skill that's listed here is basic alphabet knowledge. And so that is a very beginning of kindergarten skill. It's, do I know my letters? Do I know my sounds, right? It's the very beginning of the year. So it starts with letter name. that protocol is very long, much longer than any of the other protocols, much longer than any other skill takes. And that's why it's more than a third of the year in kindergarten. And so if a child is going through this protocol, they get to the end and it's time to test and they don't do well, the tutor is taking note of which letters that child had difficulty with, and then when they do the reteach, it's not just going back to the beginning and starting
That's what
over
I'm asking,
again.
what's the process?
Very
Okay.
targeted.
Okay.
Yes, it's very targeted.
Thank you.
And so I will start by, so if you're looking at this document with the protocols listed in a timeline, you'll see that it starts way over to the left with basic alphabet knowledge. That's a kindergarten skill. And that encompasses all of those in that first set of cells. The second in the center is the first grade skills, the skills that would normally be taught in first grade, and then the second grade skills are way over to the right. So ideally, our first grade students coming in this beginning of the school year would have mastered the kindergarten skills and would be ready for blends and digraphs. But that's not always the case. And so with the students, all of the students that we enrolled in this one-on-one virtual tutoring were students who were below grade level. So we had a very specific group that we were going to be working with. They were students that were really, really struggling across the 6 schools. And so I'll start with my students who were in that basic alphabet knowledge in the beginning of the year. And so these are students that did not master early kindergarten skills and they were sitting in first grade seats. So of those students, 90% mastered at least 1/3 of the kindergarten skills. So they moved into letter sounds. Of that 90% that moved, 62% of them moved actually into the grade 1 skills. So they were catching up rapidly. They were catching up at a rate of about 2 weeks of learning within 1 week of instruction, between what was happening with the tutor and what was happening in the rest of the literacy block. So they're seeing their teacher, they're seeing interventionists in some cases, they're engaged in all tiers of instruction. So when you think about those students who started at the very beginning skills, 27% of them were leaving with, were in the protocol for blends and digraphs, so they moved into the beginning of first grade. 23% moved into R-controlled, so they were in the middle of the year skills. And then 12% were in the end of year, which would include the vowel, consonant, E, and vowel teams. But like I said, there are some students still in the basic early alphabet knowledge skills, and those students are the students that we bring to our student support team, and we talk through how to best meet their needs in all parts of the literacy block. So the next group that I'll talk about are the students who were on grade level. So these are students who did start in first grade skills, but they were lagging behind their peers. And so at the end of the year, 15% of those students are still living in blends and digraphs. 33% are living in that middle section of R-controlled and vowel, consonant, E. And then 35% are in vowel teams, and 17% of those students are actually now working in second grade skills, which is really great. My last bucket of students are students who they needed a boost in order to catch up to their peers, but not at the same extent as the rest of the students. And so when you think about those students, 45 of the 72% that started in below grade level skills, 37% are now working on first grade and or in second grade, and 45% of all students are now working on in that group.
I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. This room gets to me every time.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Joe.
So when we picked the Fonska, Green, Henry, Lord, Spencer, Borden, Durham, and Tansy, what was the rationale? Because I know Tansy's been touted as the highest performing school. I'm just, curious as to what the rationale was for leaving, the 4 out that we need to.
Yep. Okay. So that was actually that was very strategically done. in the past couple of years, we've partnered with UConn to be part of a study, and that study is involving kindergarten, first and second grade teachers, and the way in which they teach reading to students using the science of reading. Those schools that were the early adopters and hooked up with UConn and the Hill were those 6 schools that you mentioned.
Okay.
So this current school year, the remaining schools are now in that study. So those teachers were taking on all new practices. And that means that their students too were learning all new practices. And we didn't think it would be fair to students or teachers to then tell them, oh, and you have to build this into your day. So that is why.
So then why were those, was it something that was on the onus of the principal to start this process, and those 6 schools were the ones that basically did it?
So in the beginning.
And now the other 4 are doing it as well, now we're
Yes.
gonna catch them up to speed. Is that
Exactly.
what I'm saying makes sense?
Yes,
Okay,
that's
great.
exactly right.
I just wanted to clear that up in
Yeah.
my head, thanks. That's it.
Anything else?
That's it for me.
We are actually asking for seats for next year for the other
Right,
schools.
yeah, I know.
Yeah, and so it's,
That's good.
It's not cheap.
no, it's not cheap at all.
not cheap.
It's not cheap at all.
I guess, I mean, my opinion is, if we're gonna be equitable, clearly, I'm wondering, why, I see how well this is working and
Yeah.
the improvements, and I say, my gosh, I want all those scholars at Wonset and Latrell and Viveris and Sylvia, they should be getting the same advantage, so. I mean,
As a
I guess-
backdrop, we have started training up our interventionists in Walpole and McKenna, which is the program that this company uses, so that we can start to replicate it, at least in a way where they can pull small group and use the protocols. Maybe someday we'll get to the point that it can be one-on-one, but we're not there yet.
Thank you.
Okay. Should be amplified, right?
Okay, amplified. So that is the slide deck that looks like this in the front.
Mine doesn't have notes on it.
No. As Cheryl was talking, I was writing.
Right?
So as you know, this is our first year in middle school with a curriculum.
Yep.
For many, many years. In the past, it has been homegrown, and our scores were not improving, so we decided to go through a very rigorous vetting process, and we adopted Amplify 6 to 8. And so I do want to preface this with, although it says the impact of Amplify coaching, I have to give credit to our school-based people, because it's not just Amplify coaching that's happening. Our instructional leads, our teacher leaders are all engaged in coaching each other up. And so I want to say that, because this isn't just because an Amplify coach came in. Okay? And it's also, when I say PD, it's PD. When I say the impact of Amplify, I'm talking about PD, I'm talking about in-class coaching, I'm talking about feedback, and that comes from all parties that are involved in ELA in the secondary school. The first year with the Amplify coaches specifically was focused on familiarity with the platform, understanding unit design, understanding lesson design, and then knowing all that, purposefully planning for how to engage our students in this rigorous material. So next year, as we move forward, the focus is on oral and written discourse. So today we had a session as a group of instructional leads focused on writing. How does the writing roll out? How is it different than the way we typically teach writing? Okay, so we had instructional walks at 2 different times this school year. We had one in February, this is with the Amplify people, and one in May. The rubric that we used had 4 indicators on it. I pulled 2 indicators because those were the 2 that are observable. One was around like use of data. You can't necessarily see that in the classroom. And so I focused on the 2 that had the most, would mean the most in this particular setting. And so I just want to preface this with saying that this is a moment in time. So the school gives us a schedule, we walk in, we're with the principal, we're with the instructional lead, we're with any vice principals that are involved in instruction, and sometimes teacher leaders. And then, of course, Dr. Curley and Mrs. Ponce. And so we go in and we're in the classroom for about 15 to 20 minutes, and we're taking copious notes. Then we go back, we discuss, and we rate on a rubric. And so this first one that you see called Teacher Outcomes, the rubric is around understanding the structure of Amplify. There's a focus on routines, and that's at the left-hand side under foundational. So we're starting at, like, does the teacher understand the platform in the program? Does she understand the routines that are in that program for full engagement to kids? And if you go way over to the right in the innovation column, those are that the teacher knows the lesson so well that they're making wise decisions about how to get to those lesson objectives, and focused on feedback cycles, okay? What's expected at the beginning of a program implementation is to be either in foundational or initial. That's typical. In year 2 and 3, you usually find teachers falling in that full operation, and then in years 3 to 5 in the innovation. So if you look at the first graph, you can see that on the left-hand side, it was our February data, and on the right-hand side of each foundational, initial, full, and innovation, it's our May data. And so you can see that we are shifting our instruction to the right. We actually have a couple of teachers that are in full innovation for this particular indicator. We're seeing the movement that we want to see. We want to see foundational and initial shrinking. We want to see full and innovation growing. And we do see that in teacher outcomes.
So there's a quick question from the February to the May, and I agree with you. There is definitely a shift to the right, but what do you think is keeping the we have about 30% of teachers' outcomes still in foundational? What do you think is keeping them that?
Well, I think the program is very big, and there are a lot of components to it. Teachers are not have not had to use a curriculum in the past, so I think they're learning it. And that's pretty typical for anything that's new. And so I wasn't surprised to see that, quite honestly. I was kind of surprised to see the innovation popping up at this point in implementation. And honestly, we went into some classrooms for the last round, and I was like, geez, this isn't what I typically see of this teacher. She's usually like, I don't know, doing something much closer to the full in innovation, and we didn't necessarily see it, but again, it's a moment in time.
No, thank you. And so this is grade 6, so this is like 6 through 8. Have you noticed any specific classrooms or schools that might be struggling more than others in trying to innovate? What schools?
I think that I think CUS is having some difficulty, and that's just because there are other structural parts of CUS that need to be tightened up in order for teachers to really do their best work and students to do their best work. And more in 2, I think the teachers there are having a little bit more difficulty getting in there and like sinking their teeth in.
Okay, thank you.
And those are general terms, right? Because there are some amazing things happening at both of those schools. But they're also very, very big schools with a huge amount of staff.
No, I know you weren't trying to attack the schools. I understand.
Any other questions for teacher?
Do you have any?
For student outcomes, on the left-hand side, those are, can kids navigate the platform? Do they follow the routines? Or does it look like the first time they've ever been asked to do a writing share? Way over to the right, that's where the ownership is on the students. They really feel like they're part of this, and that decisions are being made based on what they've learned or what they're interested in learning. So again, we see more ownership happening on the part of students. We see students that are really engaged, and when we talk to kids, they are all about it. The topics are rich, they're diverse, students are seeing themselves in the content. This matches the teacher data in terms of like high foundational, high initial, right? Because as the teacher is learning the platform, students are learning the platform. And if my teacher is not super comfortable, it's going to impact the way in which kids engage. Any questions about Amplify?
It makes sense that they kind of rapidly increase with the teacher. Any questions?
This is one quick question. So for the innovation part, so this is for the students. So if the students meet the criteria that they're like innovative, so that's basically like they're putting in writing they're putting in their writing, and it's like it's good material.
So if I'm looking at innovation, I'm looking for kids that are driving conversation in the classroom around the content. So if they're reading about Frederick Douglass, there's some passion in the kids, and they're ready to discuss, and they're knowledgeable about the topic, and they're applying the ELA skills that they need to in order to propel themselves forward.
Ready for a capstone.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Ms. Dias. I think that's. Alexia.
Oh, okay. So elementary Alexia. So this, we're a couple of years in Lexia, and so this is this one. So just like Mrs. Patterson was talking about, this is a program where students take a diagnostic, much like what we do with the Ignite. And then students are placed on their own learning path based on what they produced or on the diagnostic assessment. And so students move at different paces depending on where they are in the scope and how much support they need in the three categories. So those categories, again, are word study, grammar, and comprehension. And so, again, Core 5 does have a high correlation to MCAS scores. So at the end of the year, this is what we're seeing in terms of data. So we're seeing an increase in usage. So you can see if you follow the trend line from, if you drew an invisible trend line from 2019 to now, you can see that our data and usage has increased. And with data usage increasing, productivity and progress is also increasing. Down at the bottom, the little blurb that speaks to the number of students using Core 5 with fidelity increased more than 5% between the beginning and now. With fidelity means that they're meeting they're meeting their usage goals, but they're meeting them all the time, regularly. The next slide, which is the percentage of K-5 students meeting benchmark, this is a slide that talks about all students. Not all students meeting their usage goals. There's a difference between those two things. This is all students that we have in K-5. And so when you look at that, you can see that sure, there's been a little bit of growth, but when you flip it over and you look at the students who met usage goals, so this slide, you can see that when students are actually meeting usage goals, meaning they're on the platform regularly with fidelity, they are growing at a much larger rate. They more than doubled. They went in the beginning in 2023, at the start of this school year, we had about 29% of students who fell in the at or above grade level range. And now, according to Lexia, we are at or above at an 86% range. But again, this is 1,362 of our students, where this number of all students is 5,086. And so, of the kids who are on all the time, they're growing.
Right. Anything? Mr. Dias, you have anything? You good?
No, I'm good for now, thank you.
Okay. So, we have now,
Okay, so yeah, just an update for science. So science, if you remember, back a couple of years, we purchased the Illuminate platform for me to be able to build something to monitor science. Science doesn't have what ELA and math have for all these progress monitoring. And the exciting thing is we're finally at a place for middle school and for high school biology and the beginnings of physics where we have something in process. And so it's comprised of summative assessments that we are able to put in the platform that come from the Open SciEd or pre-AP curricula, and they're housed in there, students take them in there, and the scores are in there so that we have the power of the data reporting feature from Illuminate. And so that information is going to be there we use it for weekly PLCs to look at student progress, and it's in there as well for when our MTSS systems are up and running, because that data will be able to be looked at with attendance and behaviors and the whole package, which is really great. We also have started formative assessments as of this January at the high school level, where every week students take 2 formative assessments that are auto-scored, it's an opening activity for the start of the class, and that data then gets looked at on the weekly by the teaching teams. So the teachers have dived into the data, they're looking at their practice, they're talking regularly now based on data and not just assumptions.
All the high school kids?
All the biology, we started with biology,
okay.
and we're also rolling this into physics. So we started with the tested subjects to be able to really get a
Right.
big bang for our buck.
How-
What that
one
did
more on
for
that.
us.
How long are the assessments that they have?
They
to sit
are
through?
3 questions. They're like 5 to 7 minutes where the students
Okay.
read the passage and then answer these MCAS-like questions that we've pulled out of Illuminate. So we're using the Illuminate items. If there's some items for the math standards that are not in there, we've created some using the math standards. And then we, about 6 weeks in, follow up with a summative-based assessment that's mostly auto-scored using MCAS released items. So we built a platform coming up to the June MCAS where we had some predictive data about like who we thought was really ready to be able to sit for MCAS now and who might benefit for even waiting a little bit. Like we were able to then look at 8th grade MCAS scores for science and math, and then look at the formative assessment data that we had from the system that we're creating, and we're able to create strategic groupings for kids. The 6 days prior to MCAS, we had them during class time doing some MCAS prep and review so that they felt comfortable and confident when they were sitting for their MCAS testing. Yes.
Thank you. Could you just give like some like brief, not like specific examples, but like an overview of like what they're being assessed on? Like I know you said it's through like Illuminate, but like,
So at the high school level, if it's, they're either sitting for a biology MCAS, which is completely life science based, or if they're taking physics classes, could sit for an MCAS physics test. If we're talking about middle school, it's a 6 to 8 grade span, and their assessment covers the 4 domains of science: life science, physical science, earth and space, and technology and engineering.
so and I don't know if I'm jumping the gun, just let me know if I am, and I'll hold. So the 192 students that were assessed, is that just primarily at the high school level?
Okay, we'll get there just a
Okay,
minute.
I'll hold the question.
So I just first had just wanted to give us that because this is completely new to you and I understand, but we never had all the data that we just got to see for math and ELA. Those kind of platforms don't exist for science, so we've had to create our own. And so this is what we have now, is something with the summative assessments that are either coming out of the curriculum or linked to MCAS released items, and these formative weeklies, so we're tracking in real time. We're not having to wait until an MCAS score, which is what used to be. So I'm excited about it because we're kind of in a place now where we can join the world in terms of having some data to make real decisions and to have good teacher conversations. And that's been the exciting thing in PLC. There's been a lot of discussion teacher to teacher in PLC about their kids, about the curriculum, about practices, and we just didn't have that opportunity before.
So this is like the first year you get collecting data like this?
It is
First
like
view.
the first year that we're able to collect this comprehensive picture. We've been using Illuminate for this is the 3rd year, I believe, that we've
Okay.
had it. But prior to this year is where it's really all starting to come together, because I was just always a step ahead. The teachers need to do the curriculum-based measure in 2 days. I was building it today. Like, that's kind of the way that we had been on, because it just took time to get this set up. And now we're at a place where we can use what we have and really focus in on data and our kids. And also looking at what do our kids need in class to be able to help them fill some gaps. And we just didn't have that system before.
No, thank you.
So what we have on slide 4 of your packet is just, this data is just a representative of what teachers are looking at over time. And this shows for biology, there's 4 domains in the biology MCAS. And so we're able, from the formative assessment work and the summative assessments we're doing in here, to be able to track over time. And we're seeing overall kind of increasing growth We've had some dives where we started off in the beginning, and it was a little bit disappointing to see some of our student initial baselining. But from that, teachers were able to really start to look at practices, look at kid needs, and get our students supported. So we've seen growth from beginning to end of a domain in the work. And this represents our pre-AP curriculum as well as our open science curriculum. All students in a biology class have been part of this assessment work. What the teachers look at on the next slide, this is just again an example. It's not meant to do a deep dive today into the data, but this is what teachers look at. The students will say on Thursday and Friday of every week, take one of on each day, one of these formatives, and then when we get to PLC on Tuesdays and Wednesdays the following week, teachers open PLC looking at overall performance of their own students and overall performance of all students on this assessment, and they have this quick visual where they can see really how many students are exceeding, how many students are meeting, how many students are approaching, and how many are not meeting. And the cut points in here are set to match what the cut points of MCAS look like. So we've got weekly real times by standards, because we're looking every week and every day at a different set of standards to be able to match over time. And we can take that formative data. About 6 weeks in, we look at the summative for the MCAS release, and we're also in between looking at data that we generate from within the curriculum assessments. So it's been pretty exciting.
You feel the excitement comes really off your
It's been a long time. I'm
I know it has.
so happy.
has.
So we the outcomes that have happened from this, as I said, we've got this data now that we could talk about in weekly PLCs, and it's part of our weekly PLC internalization cycle. It focuses and allows us to discuss standards alignment, practices, which is also measured on MCAS, the key content, and we also, in preparing for the MCAS, use this as an opportunity to help students build their own test strategy approaches before they sat for MCAS. So looking at item types, understanding what the question is asking and how they approach a specific type on the MCAS. So we're hoping they were better prepared as they sat for MCAS this June. The pre-built reports and the graphs and things in here allows to free up our teachers to focus on the data and their kids, and not what they used to have to do was build all their own spreadsheets and all their own graphs. So this is just quick real time. We test on Thursday, Friday, we're looking at data on Tuesday. And it allows, as I said, for deeper discussions. We're able to see student outcomes almost immediately. A teacher can give that, and if they wanted to, they could look at that donut, that bagel, whatever that is, the multicolor, and they could be working with kids within that class period if they needed to. And it
give out
allowed
snacks.
us. Yes, and that's
I
like a
read that
huge
this
thing. Did
weekend.
you read the student feedback? So after MCAS, after we did the 6 days of this rotating MCAS prep during science class time. So students were, instead of reporting to their class with their teacher, teachers rotated between strategic groups over 6 days. Teachers specialized in a specific set of standards that were grouped by DESE, that are for what was on MCAS, and they did strategic preparation for students, helping them link back to what they've learned earlier in the year and recognize what will be coming when they sat in a few
Yeah,
days
and
for
I think one of
MCAS.
the kids was quoted stating that it was important that the teachers rotated. And
Yes.
Yeah.
just that they
Yes.
caught that.
Yeah, that was
you
some
know.
of the feedback. They were really
Right.
excited that they were getting
Right.
additional perspectives
Yep.
on things that they learned. It was helping them think back that, okay, I do know stuff going into this.
Yeah.
And the survey we sent out said that basically people felt very confident, where that wasn't usually the
Right.
case.
Right.
We asked them on the survey how many days they attended, and then we dove into some readiness questions.
Yeah.
And really, I was pretty pleased. Most students were at 3 or above on the readiness
Right.
responses. And most students felt very confident, 3 or above, in terms of their confidence in going to sit for that. My experience is, if you can build that, that's a huge win when they're sitting for the test. They're willing to try to answer things that might not be familiar.
Right.
Just a quick question, just if you can educate me, like when we do like an MCAS review, because I see there's only 57 responses. Is
So
there, like,
we, this was like, because we had the data, it was really a quick turnaround to set up this MCAS prep program. We did not, when kids were with their teachers in their class, tell students ahead of time that, you know, you're gonna go through these 6 days, you're gonna sit for the MCAS, and then we're gonna send out a survey, because we just didn't have a chance to do that. We were building it as the plane was flying, right? So the survey that we sent out after the day of MCAS went out to students just through their email. There was no teacher prompting, but we wanted to be able to capture some kind of feedback from kids. The reports we were getting from teachers were kids were talking about the MCAS to their teachers, stopping in the department chair's office to say how confident they felt, how they think they did a good job. We've never had that kind of response after MCAS
No,
before.
I understand that.
So that prompted us to say, okay, let's send out a survey and see what else we can capture in terms of information from other students. And this data that I captured here, those numbers are much higher now. It was last week when we sent out the survey. This was within hours. We had students replying. It was almost instant. The survey went out and feedback was coming in, which was pretty cool. And I didn't look today, I probably should have, to see what the numbers were, but I know there's more data points than what's in here.
Right, no, the only thing I was gonna say, so for next year, I think there's gonna be more of like an emphasis on trying to get like these surveys out so we can collect more data.
Yes, like our plans are that this seems to have worked, so this is something that we're gonna figure out how we also build in between September and February when the next group of kids sit for the next MCAS testing. On the last page of this, I just shared like some of the things, like Mimi said, just the feedback that students had. They thought that it was great to have different teachers. They loved the snacks. They thought it was really helpful for them. They liked talking about different things. So if students were absent, they might have missed key topics, and at least we filled in some gaps. So that's what I have. I just wanted to be able to share that. The other piece of this is this work is not just limited to high school. This system we're building for middle school as well, and we've started that work late April with actually at Talbot, and just building the formatives for middle school so that we have them in place with a plan to do this same work next year, 6th through high school, starting as early as September. So we'll be collecting formative data regularly. Elementary, the plans will come, but it won't be until later fall, because we're going to be building the formatives to match the Open SciEd curriculum, which the first released units will be used in the classrooms like late October. So we'll match our programming with that rollout as we build elementary across the district.
Any questions, comments, concerns? Okay. It was a great update. Thank you. Appreciate it all.
Thank
We're now going to move on to 3.2, discussion and vote to refer curriculum and assessment materials. We're going to start off with Lexia English.
So Lexia English is somewhat new to us. We did have some teachers test it out this year. We had previously been using Imagine Learning. The only place you will still see Imagine Learning on our docket is at Viveris, because Imagine Learning does include Imagine Espanol, which Lexia does not. So there is no equivalent Lexia product in Spanish. And so our dual language program does require students to be building literacy skills in both English and Spanish. Lexia English was preferred by the teachers. It went out, they got to take a look at it. It includes a speaking component. So what's different from the Lexia Power Up or Core 5 that Steph talks about? Those are very much grammar skills, which are also valuable to our multilingual learners, but what we don't get is speaking practice. One of the domains on Access is a speaking test, and the students have to speak into the computer. So one of the things that the teachers have been asking for is, how can we get them to practice speaking into the computer? It is tough. It's an unnatural way to practice your English, but that's also the unnatural way that they're tested. So unfortunately, that is just how it is on the access test, and we do want to make sure that kids are prepared for that. Ideally, they speak to each other, they speak to peers, they speak to adults. However, for testing purposes, they have to speak to the computer. Lexia English also aligns to the WIDA proficiency levels. So it's easy for teachers to track how their kids are doing in comparison to how we expect them to do on Access. It's not like, well, they've done this much, what does it mean? They are actually able to track it through the dashboard as the kids move from beginning to intermediate to more advanced skills. We are asking to use it for now in our beginner classrooms. That's largely because in beginner ESL, students would have the time to use Lexia English within the school day. In advanced ESL classes, they're only 45 minutes long, and I cannot in good conscience say that we would be able to allocate the appropriate amount of time to it in the advanced classes, and I don't want to pay for something and have it sit on a shelf and say, yeah, we're not going to use it. So we are asking for it for the more newcomer and beginning students to be able to use. Questions?
What do you designate as newcomer, beginner?
Yes. So those are students who are either are literally newcomers, like they've just come, they're within their first year of U.S. schooling, or beginning levels of English proficiency are students who are scoring below a 3 on their Access, and have been with us really only a year or two. After that, we're asking kids to move on to more advanced levels of English proficiency, moving into the more mainstream classes to work with their English-speaking peers. So it would be for really our students who are transitioning to English.
Okay. Mr. Dias?
Thank you. I actually have a few questions on this one. So, let me get this a backdrop. So how many MLL students do we have at the, rough estimate at the elementary, middle school level?
At the, overall, or
Yes.
just at this beginning level of English proficiency?
Overall.
In the district, we have 2,700 multilingual learners. At the high school, I believe it's about 500-ish right now, might even be a little more than that.
And what's this contract gonna cover? Just gonna cover just high school, or just gonna cover the entire district?
It'll cover all of our kids who are at the newer levels of English proficiency.
The reason I asked that, because I see they asked for 150. You think that would be enough, or you think you would need more?
So it's 150, that's a really good question. It's 150 in addition to the full school licenses. So for a school like Fonseca that has a lot of newer students, they're just gonna have a full license. Any kid at Fonseca could use, any multilingual learner could use this. The extra 150 are for students who might be sitting at another school. They don't have a lot of kids, so it's not cost effective to buy a license, say, for Watson, who may only have 10 kids that need to use this program. So those extra 150 licenses are for our schools that have fewer multilingual learners.
Okay, so the top, I'm looking at the contract, so the top part asking for the license for the school, the 7, that's gonna cover 7 schools, and then the 150 are gonna cover schools that aren't based off of the 7.
Correct.
Okay. And just 2 more questions. What's the district success partnership?
So that is the professional development that will go along with launching this. We want to make sure that all the teachers are equipped. It will be new to some of them, and we want to make sure that they have a Lexia person to show them. There's a piece to this, as Ms. Patterson was talking, there's a piece to this of, yeah, you're going to go on the computer, you're going to talk to the computer, and when a kid gets stuck, they need to know to pull the lesson, to deliver the lesson, to track the student's progress. Frankly, if the teacher does not do that, we can't count on it being successful. So we do not want this to devolve into, please sit in front of a computer and work. We want to make sure that the teachers know how to engage with the platform and engage with the students who are working on the platform.
Okay, so that success partnership goes in partnership with the professional learning days. So,
Correct.
so there would be 2 district-wide within the year.
So, and that will, Lexia, I will say, is usually very flexible with when we do that. What we were talking about is doing something kind of at the beginning to get them launched, and then doing something a little later in the year, so that they would know how to look at data and how they might need to adjust.
You'll think,
Any questions? Anyone? All righty. So, middle school ESL review and pilot.
Yep. So that is a renewal of the curriculum that we put into place. Some of it is consumable. So that's just a renewal of our impact and our time zones materials that are like workbooks that are consumable and the kids need new ones. The pilot is for the newcomer scope of a new National Geographic offering that is allegedly WIDA 2020 aligned. We are hoping that we see it get the WIDA 2020 prime seal. We do not, frankly, want to shift teachers to a full new curriculum without knowing for sure that it's going to get that WIDA 2020 prime seal. However, we are expecting that that's going to happen, and we would like for the teachers to at least get a taste of what that curriculum is going to look like. Since time zones, some of the feedback from the teachers is that it's really not great for the brand newcomer kids who have just walked in the door. We said, okay, this new LIFT curriculum has a good newcomer piece. Let's try that one out with the teachers, just so they can get their feet wet, see if they like it, get some feedback on it, and then should that get the seal, then we can make some more informed decisions about whether we want to move more into that direction or if we want to continue working with our time zones and impact curriculum. We also may or may not get the WIDA 2020 seal. The state is in a huge review process of trying to decide what ESL curriculum materials are going to get that new seal. And we just don't know how it's going to land. They have not released any information yet.
Yes.
actually, I have one more question.
Yeah.
So this is the first year, if we approve this, it's going to be the first year we have this in the district.
So our time zones and impact, no. Just that one, we just want to pilot a small portion of the LIFT curriculum, and that would be new. Time zones and impact are the curriculum we've been using for the past couple of years.
Okay, so the reason I asked that, because I see the teachers, the overall feedback is good. So you say by next year we can get, when you say it's proven to be impactful on SS scores of students, so that's students that in the district or overall, if anyone who uses
You're back for Lexia English?
Yes, I.
Oh, no, that's okay. So Lexia English, if you look at those reports, that is overall in other WIDA states and other WIDA districts. So they have, Lexia English has run a lot of reports. It's not a new product, so there's been studies on Lexia English, and that it has been impactful on access scores. We have not, Lexia English we have not done fully in this district, so we don't, so that would be new to us.
So you would say we could get some data on that next year?
Absolutely.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay. Ignite reading, right?
No, elementary.
Oh yeah, elementary newcomer.
So,
I already had this last. 'Cause I thought-
that is just, that's not a huge ask, but we have a curriculum coordinator in the ESL department, Allison Semple. She has been working on building out our elementary scope and sequence. We have some materials from Wonders. We still plan on using some of those materials from Wonders with our newcomers. We just need a little more. And short of having teachers have to find those for themselves, we're looking to have a supplement to Wonders so that teachers have a little more material to work with their newcomers. It's just challenging when they have to go out and say, okay, we've used the Wonders newcomer materials and we need a little more, now we have to find those on the internet or elsewhere. So we're just looking to add a few materials to help our newest students make the transition to English.
Questions?
And that comes from the Wonders platform as well? Like, is it a supplement that we're buying? Is that
So
what
no, we have, Wonders is already, we have
Right,
Wonders.
mhm.
Right.
This is National Geographic's Insight
Oh,
in
okay,
the
that's the one you're
USA.
talking
Yep.
about, okay.
Mhm.
So it would be an additional curriculum to help, to add to the
Yes.
Wonders curriculum, because we don't think that that is
It's not quite
encompassing
enough for the newcomers.
Okay,
So it's literally just the kids that are brand new.
yep,
They get one pass at it in Wonders, but sometimes they just need a little more repetition and practice. And that way they have multiple materials that if we're practicing action verbs, we've used the Wonders stuff at action verbs, now we have something else that we can.
And this one's brand new,
All right,
right?
thank you.
What you're talking about right now.
In
This
the
is
inside?
for
Yes,
geography.
yeah, the newcomer. Anything else on newcomer? Okay, Ignite Reading.
So as we just talked about, the 1-8 Foundation funds 300 seats across 6 schools in the city. And our ask is that we can expand to the remaining elementary schools. I was hoping for 200 seats. I have a quote for 200 and 100 because the cost is high. And so that's what the ask is.
so would 200 seats cover all of the schools that
So
that are not being serviced right now?
we assigned the 300 seats according to need. So a school that was at greater need has a larger number of seats. So with the 200 seats, that's exactly how we'd attack the other schools. We'd say, let's look at your at-risk students, kind of rank order all the students and say, these 200 are the kids that would qualify or be placed in this program based on the number of seats that we have. And those schools, most could come from one school, where others would need fewer. We're gonna go by need.
But we have over 200 kids that you'd like to see use this program, so your one ask was 200 and then you, okay. All right, thank you.
Any questions? Mr. Dias?
No, don't.
Okay. Let's go on to Lexia Core.
And so we've been using Lexia for a couple of years. I'd like to continue it in the elementary school. And so the ask is for a continuation of the work that we've started.
Now, when it says quantity, that 77, is that seats, like you talked about the last one? Is that little subscriptions? What was the 77 for?
Yeah, so the way that there are some schools that don't like someone was just talking about,
Right.
some schools don't require a whole
Okay.
school-wide subscription. And so we counted up the number of students that would be using the program in those schools, and
And the ask,
again,
the ask
more
goes by your data, that's what we're doing.
But that 77 might be something like Stone, I'm thinking.
Right,
Right.
right.
They don't
Okay.
require a full subscription, so
Okay.
there are some students there who would, we'd want using it, but then it's less expensive to buy per student than to buy a full
to buy
school
the whole thing,
subscription.
right.
Okay. Any questions? So who's the money? We're spending money here, people. Lots of money.
Always
I
the
wish we
money.
had more to spend.
Gotta do it.
Stephanie is
Oh,
the
we
expert
spend
at
all
that.
the money.
Let's
Stephanie
go on to middle school health. Mr. Fitzgerald.
So
we looked at the Goodhart Wilcox curriculum so that we can be vertically aligned with the high school. The high school currently is in year 2 of using this program. This year, we piloted the program at the middle schools, RPA, as well as Stone School. It was very well received by the teachers as well as the students, so we've gone ahead and asked for it to be purchased. We got our rec in for it, currently on hold as we wait to see some other funds might come available, working with the mayor's office to look to wrap around to the Catholic and the charter schools in the city to possibly do a citywide purchase on it through a grant. We would also use our Planned Parenthood curriculum that was already purchased for grades 6, 7, and 8 for our human growth and reproduction.
So we're thinking of, like, if Charter decides they want to do this.
Atlantis, yeah, I'm sorry.
Atlantis does, so let's say Argosy too, maybe? So if they want to, then we can buy it all together as Fall River essentially, and
The city grants
A city-
will pay for it.
The city grant will pay for it. Do we need the Catholic schools involved, or can they say no and we
We're
still get a
offering
grant?
to them because we figure now Bishop Connolly,
Yeah.
with Bishop Connolly being closed, the problem we see at the high school when they come into Health One is that everyone's taught something different. You know,
Well, I
so-
went to 13 years of Catholic school, and I'll
St.
tell you, they ain't
Michael's.
teaching that.
This isn't the curriculum.
And I'm pretty sure last I checked, the Bible didn't change, so
Yeah.
I wouldn't hold our breath on them, but, you know, we can.
I would
hope-
assume they would probably opt out of the human growth portion of it.
Yes,
but
like
there
the
are some other
science
parts
stuff,
that
yeah.
they can pick and choose.
Sure.
Where they can
They
go
could pick and
through.
choose? Cool.
Yeah.
All right.
They can pick and choose where they go through. That way, when they come in Health One, our teachers aren't spending that time reteaching material
Mhm.
or, you know, in the year past, we kind of like sole source stuff.
Sure.
Where when I was at Cuss, I taught one thing and Talbot taught another and Morton taught another. So when they came to the high school, it was like they were all over the place. Now we're trying to, you know, centralize it so when they come up, they have
Sure.
that background to.
If I was a parent of a middle school student and I wanted to see a deeper dive of this curriculum to see what you were teaching my son and daughter, is that accessible to me, and how would I go about accessing that?
You'd have to do a records request.
And how would I go about doing that? I would call the administrative office, or?
You can send an email. They can,
You send an email.
They
Send an
can
email.
formalize.
Just curious,
They
because we get
send a
these
records
questions,
request
you know?
through Deb, and then we.
Okay. All right, awesome.
Curriculum will be
So-
posted.
Yeah, but can I ask a
Go ahead.
question about the
Yeah.
records request? Like, for the most part, we link our curriculum on the website
Right.
where it's
Yes.
available.
It'll be
So is
posted.
it a copyright issue that you're talking about in terms of a records? It
I
doesn't
thought
have-
if they want to come in and actually review the curriculum and sit, like the, I was
Oh,
thinking more
the
towards the
lessons.
human growth and
Oh,
reproduction.
like sit in a
piece.
class?
Oh.
Oh, no.
No, not
Oh.
so, just review it.
Oh, just review it, got you. I'm just thinking more if certain parents may look at this and say, oh, wait, what are they actually teaching about pregnancy prevention? Because in my home, this is our philosophies, and I'm interested in knowing that. So again, that's not me as a parent, but parents come all different, right? We all have different concerns. So if that was a question that was asked to me, I want to know what my son and daughter's learning in middle school. They came home saying they're learning about, you know, whatever. How do I know exactly what they're teaching? I want to be able to, like, point them in the right direction. So I could say, I guess, visit the website and look at the curriculum. Would that be fair? It's on
They can
there, and then
access
if you have
that,
more
but if you want to
questions.
see the actual material that's being presented due to copyright, you would put the records
Got you.
request in.
Got you.
I would sit
Makes
with them.
sense.
I would go, you can't record, you can't photograph.
Got you.
Here's what's being presented.
Perfect, because they're basically gonna kind of see this, they're not
Yeah,
gonna
of
see the
course.
actual stuff, right, okay. Thank you so much, so I don't have
Absolutely.
anything else.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Fitzgerald. Did the school committee approve the process where parents could opt out, but
Correct.
not in, right? We changed that.
Yes.
It's
So
a
At
passive.
the middle school and the high school, you can opt out of it, otherwise we assume
Otherwise,
that
they
we
get
have
this.
consent.
Okay,
The
but then-
elementary school, they gotta sign for it.
Right.
Yeah, they're gonna go through
Right.
the puberty lesson in fifth
But
grade.
we did change that
Yes.
sort of way of doing things. So remind me what it goes right through, what's the parent
Square.
portal? Yeah, Parent Square, that's an option, right? We are
Yeah.
letting them know that
We
this
sent-
is an
we send
option for
that
the middle
out.
school.
A minimum of 2 weeks.
Right, okay.
This year, the way we're redoing the schedule, excuse me, is we're gonna do it terms 2 and 3 so that we get
Mm-hmm.
everybody. That way, you know, kids are moving classes or moving schools, you know, it's just like a plug and
Mm-hmm. Okay.
play. We'll get that information out to them, you know, enough in advance where they can make an informed
Good.
decision
Yep,
whether or not.
that's all, I just want to make sure
Yeah,
they,
their child,
okay.
you know,
Mr.
would
Dias?
take part in that.
Yes, this is a quick question actually for the administration, because I reviewed the curriculum before, actually with a few parents, and I didn't hear any issues. Administration's fine, like the, what's being taught at the grade level is no issues. Thank you.
Thank you. Refs and reps and
Ref reps. It's our new program we're running this year. Brad Buston
Yep.
brought it to me when I was appointed the director this year. We're going to select 20 student athletes this year as our base group. We're going to put them through 3 courses, volleyball, soccer, and basketball. We're actually going to be able to have them be certified referees at the conclusion of the course. They're going to be, they're also going to receive their phys ed credit. Once they're certified, we'll be able to use them in our intramural sports as well as our local sports programs for youth soccer, CYO basketball. They'll also be able to do sub-varsity games at Somerset Berkeley, Westport, Bishop Stang, anywhere within a close enough driving distance. So we think it's going to be a great program. We're super excited about it, especially being student athletes. Some of them play multiple sports. If you're at the middle school, if you're at the high school, the middle schools are going to play before you practice. You can get there a couple hours early, make some money. That way you're not trying to, hey, I can't come to practice today. I'm working at Market Basket or Shaw's or Papagino's or whatever. And then you're going to get the other side to, what's it like to be on the court, fields, whatever it may be. Hopefully, when they go to college or post-high school, they'll want to continue refereeing and, be able to make some extra cash.
Yeah, there's so many reasons why I'm excited about this.
Yeah.
We had a conversation a few months back, but just them engaging and understanding, and the younger kids seeing the older kids and trying to emulate, and when they get to Durfee High School and they're like, I want to do this, this is, but just the whole concept is exciting for the city, for the middle schools, for the elementary school, for the high school. So kudos to you guys for coming up with this and moving forward. I love it.
Thank you.
I just have one question, pretty much, I think. So this is great. Now, why only 20 kids? Is it because we don't have time or a teacher or whatever? And if so, if it's only 20 kids, how are we going about picking those athletic scholars?
So the 20 students, we want to keep the class relatively small at first. It's our first year running it. Brendan Kelly, one of our PE teachers, as well as a coach of many years at the high school, will be implementing it. For the scholars that we selected were students that are soccer, basketball, volleyball, or a combination thereof. That way we could put them to work right away into our intramural programs, because at the intramural level, at the middle school especially, we take volunteers back, and it's all our varsity and sub-varsity athletes come back and do sidelines, they do the scoring.
So I understand the sports you're taking them from. That would make sense, right? Because that's where they're going to referee. I would assume if you're a basketball player, that would be where you'd be refereeing. That would make sense. But I'm certain we have more than 20 basketball players who maybe want to participate in this program, or volleyball players or soccer players. So I guess my question is, out of 20 kids we're picking, are we picking from a hat? Are we looking at GPA? Are we looking at economic needs? Are we spreading it out throughout neighborhoods in the community? I don't know. That's what I wanna know.
Brad, Brendan, and myself sat down and we decided, we talked about, here's 50 possible kids we think that we could fit into this program. And from that, it's not written in stone yet. We're whittling that number
But
down.
did we ask the kids? Like, did we
We
say
did.
this
Yeah,
is a program?
we sought some of them out. Are you interested? Is this something you'd want to do?
Did we tell all the kids? Does every student athlete know that this is something they could
This
do
is an
and
opportunity.
participate in? That's what I'm asking. Is that something, do we know that?
We didn't put an email out to all of them.
Okay.
So year one, we wanted to run.
I get it,
like
but you see how Dan, you know the way Fall River works and the schools work, and I don't want to hear, oh, so-and-so picked these 20 people, and those were all, and look, this is his friend, because that's just the way it is. And I understand you wouldn't do that. I know that. But that's the way it projects, right? And then we have people coming in saying we're not being fair. So it is concerning to me. Like, I think it's something should have went out to every student athlete in soccer, basketball, volleyball, and say this is an opportunity. If you're interested, sign up. And then we develop whether it's, I don't know, that would be up to you guys to decide, but what would be the criteria? It doesn't have to be grade related. It doesn't have to be you got to have a GPA. Maybe it's the kids that don't. I don't know what the criteria would be, but I think it needs to be something that's open up to everybody, and not when I come into school as a kid and go, no, I didn't know this, I could have done this, or I had that opportunity.
Every student had the option to enroll into it. It's in the Durfee Program of Studies.
Okay, so it's like an
we've
elective?
had like 300 kids maybe pick it, because they look at it as like a PE elective.
Yeah.
So every kid had the ability to like sign up for it.
Okay, so that's what I was
Yeah,
asking,
okay,
if they all
okay.
knew about it. I'm not
Yes,
saying you're
yes,
gonna
yes, yes,
personally,
yes.
so this is like an elective, so if I'm looking at my electives and I'm a basketball player, which clearly I'm not, I could look at that and I could say, oh, this is something I'm interested in. I enroll whether I get it or not. It's like anything else. I've enrolled in classes I don't get into. I'm just wondering, I'm just saying that we need to.
Yeah, year
you know,
one, we wanted our cohort
you know what I'm
of
saying.
student athletes that we could put to work.
Yeah,
You know, so we looked at some of the upperclassmen,
yep,
making it like a sophomore to senior thing.
yeah.
That way they've come through the program. It's not just like a PE class. They think they're gonna come and watch film and, you know,
Mm-hmm.
get out there, be able to make money right away. That we want them to understand the concept of like committing to a sport, being there all the
Yeah.
time. So there was that
This
part of
is
that
great.
criteria. You know what I mean? That they successfully completed seasons. They're able to maintain their eligibility. They're able to
Right.
be depended on.
Right, all those things, yeah.
Right, that was my only concern,
Yeah, and
question, that's all.
I do agree.
I think it's great.
It's a
With
very
Shelley.
diverse group. of
It's great that you
males,
are.
females.
That's what I was
and-
getting
and
at.
Being in, you know, my hands in the middle school sports and the high school sports for many years. They're ranging from the south end to the north end to the central part.
I'm sure it is, but you understand why
Yeah,
I
of course,
asked.
I totally
Because
understand.
I wanna make sure that, you know, that's all.
Right.
I trust you, I just
Yeah,
wanna.
yeah, yeah.
put
And it
out
does
there.
see the kids are interested in it
I'm s- I-
already.
I think
it's
Three
great.
hundred of us signing up for it or asking to,
Yeah.
it does lead to a job though.
We're
So
teaching
this
them
This
something,
gets a
yeah.
little tricky because we are going, I mean, I don't know who's gonna be offering the jobs, but there'll be jobs out there. So this leads to something a little more meaningful to the kids, so it definitely,
Yeah, so
what
good.
what Shelley brought up brings up a little bit, hey, we might wanna come up with that criteria and get in writing and,
One of the things I discussed with Shane Mattingly, who's our rep, is this year we're running it for a semester. So it'd be 6 weeks for each course.
Yeah.
Shane Mattingly is the district rep for ref reps in the region. We even thought about next year looking at doing it per term. So we could do term one, let's say if we did football, we did we'd get rid of soccer, basketball, volleyball, swimming, or
Change it up.
whatever it may be. Change it up based on interests and things of such. Like if you do popcorn and football on a Sunday, you can make $400 cash.
yeah. So is there an option to do two offerings per, like say do a football and a soccer in one term? Is that
You couldn't
not-
do it in one term because they're 6 weeks apart. Then you're going to take the state test.
Okay.
So you
And
can
they
do
can't
one
run
a term.
at the
Right
same
now,
time.
we're running term
This is
one,
one
term
person.
two, all three.
Who would be facilitating it, right?
Yes.
There's
Okay.
only one ref, that's what I'm asking, is one ref who's gonna be facilitating all of these?
Yes, Brendan Kelly.
Okay, Brendan, so there's only one of him, therefore we can't do a volleyball and a basketball together.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, yeah.
I got that.
Thank you. Just to echo Ms. Parrish's point, it does sound like a great program. Happy it's being offered. I think just to add to, again, to Ms. Parrish's point, maybe having that criteria in writing, just in case any parent comes to us with any complaint, that we can just hand the criteria to them.
Yeah,
But I'm
of
happy to
course.
hear that there is a diverse selection.
Yeah, very diverse.
Great.
Motion to refer? Are we done?
No,
Or am I skipping
we are
over
not
to you?
done, we are not done yet.
I apologize.
Lisa's gonna be-
I will be right
What are we on, ELD?
We are on ELD assessment materials, and so that is like, those last three bullets all kind of go together. So the assessment materials are read a model and last links. So those three are all they're not packaged, but they are all being talked about under.
This is right here.
You got it. DLE is our dual language program. We currently, when we did our analysis of our dual language program, ongoing assessment, especially of Spanish language arts, we did not score high. It is an area that we really, really need to look into. Lost Links is a program that allows us to assess both students in their English language development and their Spanish language development. So we are proposing using Lost Links in the fall and spring as our benchmarking for our DLE program. Erla and Anil are part of the ARC program. They are specific to reading. So Lost Links is all 4 domains, whereas Erla and Anil just are reading. We are hoping to roll out our English language development portfolios in DLE, but we need these to look different because we need them to look through the lens of holistic bilingualism. We are not ready yet to roll that out because we are not quite even ready to roll it out in our SEI ESL classes. We are just going to start that this year. We're hoping that in our SEI program that we are able to roll out language development portfolios really as managed by ESL teachers. A language development portfolio should include all of the teachers across the whole day. We need to do things in bite-sized chunks in ESL. There's a lot of work to be done. And so we feel ready to start the work with language development portfolios, but it will take us a couple of years to bring that to fruition across content areas. In the meantime, we did administer WIDA model this past year. That is the recommended assessment by the state of Massachusetts. Some feedback from teachers. One thing that's a little bit of a sticking point for us with WIDA model is that although it does predict access scores, it's not an apples to apples. So a student scores 4.6 on WIDA model, and we need to go through a conversion process to understand that that might be a 3.2 on access. So a sticking point for teachers, if they're not living in the ESL world, is that there is some confusion around understanding how these scores correlate. And then the concern has been raised that parents may have trouble correlating those scores and saying, well, my kid got a 4.8, not understanding it's not an apples to apples. We're gonna do our best to mitigate that as much as possible. Having said all of that, we plan to administer it in the fall. We think that that's a valid data point. The spring was tough for us this year. As you guys know, there's a lot of assessments that take place in the spring. I'm not ready to take a back seat and just say, well, we don't assess language acquisition. That's not fair to our kids. We're just not sure that spring is the right time. However, we would like to pilot Lost Links in the spring. Lost Links does have an English, have an ELD component. I did get the quote to fully move us to Lost Links for this school year. You don't have it in front of you because even I had sticker shock. Okay. And so here's the thing about, another thing about WIDA model, the back end is clunky. It takes a lot of work on our end. We have to, if a kid moves schools, we have to manually create a new record for that child. Not a new record, I'm sorry. We have to manually move that child or else we erase their record and we won't have their longitudinal test data. We've expressed this to WIDA model. They're looking for a fix, but they don't have a fix yet. So it's a lot of back-end work for us. Also, the domains have to be administered in a very specific order, which is a challenge for teachers. My class is taking speaking on Tuesday. I'm absent on Tuesday. We're taking listening on Wednesday. I can't take listening with my class because I haven't yet taken speaking, so that it becomes more of a challenge in scheduling. Right. Lost Links doesn't have that barrier. They can take them in any order, so I'm absent on Tuesday. My class took speaking. I take listening with my class on Wednesday, make up speaking at my convenience. The other thing Lost Links offers us that WIDA model doesn't is Lost Links will score for us. So right now with WIDA model, we are asking the teachers to do a one-on-one administration for speaking, heavy lift. They can do Lost Links in a small group of 5, so that eliminates some of the time it takes. Also, they have to score every single writing by hand. There's some benefit to that, I'm not gonna lie, that it does get teachers more used to using the WIDA rubrics, more hits with that, more practice with that. It's also insanely time consuming for them. Lost Links is a product that will do it for them. So, but before I ask you guys for, close to $170,000 for Lost Links, that is the number, I wanna pilot it. I don't feel that it's fair at this point to ask to pick up a $170,000 tab. Meanwhile, we're gonna stick with WIDA model for at least the fall. That's what we're trained on, that's what DESE recommends. And even when I suggested to DESE that we might pull back from WIDA model a little bit, they were like, well, what are you doing instead? Because you need to make sure you're assessing language development, and they had lots of questions about how I'm rolling out the language development portfolios. I have confidence we're gonna get there with language development portfolios. I just can't tell you it's
Was-
gonna be a full-scale lift.
Was Desi familiar with the,
Lost Links?
yeah.
They are, yes. And other districts neighboring us are using it, so that's kind of where it came from. We kind of did the ask around of, so who's using We the Model? What else are
Right.
you using? What else is out there? And so Lost Links was one that kept coming up.
Okay.
Why does Desi prefer the other model? What is their reasoning?
Literally, it aligns to Access. That is all that they will say, and it does align to Access 100%, except the score doesn't fully align. Which is, to me, it is a barrier for us. I had many conversations this spring about, no, guys, remember, it's not one-to-one. Oh yeah, we didn't use the conversion table. It's also a hand conversion. So when I pulled my data in November, I go kid by kid. We tried to chat GPT it, we tried for a workaround, and we had to go kid by kid and actually look at the scale score and find the correlation. Again, a very time-consuming lift for our administrators and for our teachers.
Yeah, so just so I understood you right, so you want to keep the WIDA model for this year, and you're going to potentially scale it back, but you want to pilot Last Links. So the quote we have here for Last Links, that's just the pilot, the 35.
That's just for the DLE program, so that's not the pilot. I don't have a quote for the pilot yet. That would, if we decide to do it, that will not be until spring. And I want to see what they can offer us if we're already an existing customer with the Last Links in DLE. I want to see if they're willing to give us a few licenses to try it out as a pilot without charging us an exorbitant fee, so we can see if we like it.
Okay, so in the WIDA model, this is for the entire school year.
That is for, we will administer that in fall. That should cover all of our kids, minus kindergarten for the fall. Kindergarten kids have 6 weeks of school under their belts when we deliver WIDA model. We don't expect, we think it's a huge lift. All K tests have to be one-on-one administration for the whole thing. And we don't expect kids to see amazing English language development in the first 6 weeks of school. So it would be grades 1 through 12 that would take WIDA model in the fall. That's all I got.
Okay. It's interesting.
It's a word for it.
Oh, so
Yeah.
motion to refer.
All of them.
Motion to refer all of them.
But the only thing
Well,
is, we need to know, Ignite, if we're gonna do the 100 license, if we're referring 100 or 200 licenses. There were 2 quotes in there.
Are we able to refer both and one
talk
gets
about it as
voted
a
no and
full
one gets
committee?
voted yes? Or should I just refer the 200 and then if colleagues want to amend something?
Well,
What's the best way to do that?
Let's take that one out right now.
I'd
And then
rather give her the 200, obviously, but we gotta see where that goes, because that's not cheap.
Let's talk,
Exactly.
let's take it out right now.
Yeah.
All right, let's
All
take it
right.
out, we'll vote to refer everything else.
All right.
So, make a motion.
So motion to refer everything but the Ignite reading.
Second.
Roll? Deb?
Mr. Dias?
Yes.
Ms. Larrabee?
Yes.
Ms. Pereira?
Yes.
Okay, so do you want to refer back to Ignite? I want to talk about Ignite for a minute. So let's go. So it's 100 or 200, right? What did we have this past year?
Well, we have
Three.
300 that's
Yep.
paid for through a grant.
Right.
That 300 will continue to get paid for through a grant. This
No.
is for an additional 100 or 200 seats, either $250,000 or $500,000.
What-
Yeah.
So if we refer the 100, just the 100 today, you can always just come back to us if there's a need for more, and we can just buy more. Besides buying the 200 altogether, and we may not have a need for it. So I'd like to make a motion at this time that we.
Well, with that being said, we could also make a motion for the 200, and if she doesn't feel she needs it, then we can go back too.
Well, but
I'd rather,
we're gonna put a contract forth if
Yeah.
the school committee approves. So,
I just feel like if she asks for the 200, it means that's what she needs. She's taking the 100 because that's what we may give her. So that's probably the reality of what it is, which is fine, I get it, it's a lot of money, so I get it. But I feel like if we go to the full committee, we should go with what she really wants, because then we can have a conversation. Otherwise, we're deciding for the other members that 200 is too many. Like, that's my opinion. Maybe I'll get there and think 200 is too much,
But we
that's a
need
lot
the
of money.
if you're saying right now we need the
What
contract.
she's saying is that we would be having the contract to approve.
Right.
So I don't know, what do you? I don't
Good.
know.
I personally think that $500,000 is a lot of money to spend. I think that we need to check the finances to see if 500, I didn't realize we were gonna have the 250 and the 500 both included
Options.
today. I think that I would be comfortable with recommending the 250, and if we need more, as Mr. Dice said, we can come back for the other. But, and we also know that there are shifts with kids, et cetera. So I think that we need to have an internal conversation about the
So are we ready to
500.
refer
I would
this?
recommend the 100.
Or do we need to have, are we ready to refer this for
The
that amount,
100.
or do you guys need more time?
So
to-
I recommend the 100
I
right
would
now.
recommend the 100.
Okay, so make.
I'll make a motion that we refer the Ignite, for the quantity of 100.
Second.
Roll.
Mr. Dice?
Yes.
Ms. Larrabee?
Yes.
Ms. Pereira?
Yes.
Okay. On to 3.4, discussion and vote to refer partnership professional development.
No. No, for the
English language
It's on the
assessment.
bottom,
No, no, no.
sorry.
Yeah, special instructor, okay.
There you go.
She's
Way
like-
at the bottom.
I'll be honest with you, I have a few here, I'm kind of confused as to which one is the,
So there are multiple versions of this.
is the one that, yeah,
The first page is the approved job description, and the last page of this is the new and improved version.
so I have them sort of separated, so the one that's circled approved job description, is this the final copy?
No, that's the
This
current
is
one.
the currently approved job description.
Oh, this is
that-
currently what's there?
The one that's
These were
proposed.
suggested, highlighted, and this is proposed.
This is
Correct.
the
What we're
proposed,
doing. All right.
yes.
That's the one that they're looking to bring forward.
Thank you.
Oh, I know I want to.
Gotcha.
All right. Okay. What do you got? Who's speaking on this?
This is me, again.
Come on in.
So this position is stationed at the Case Center.
Yep.
This is a compliance position. We are required to screen all students. If they list a language other than English on their home language survey, we are required to screen all of the students who come in to the district with a screener. Additionally, some of the changes to this position that I'm proposing are requesting that the position does a little more than just screen kids. And I want to make that clear at the outset before somebody takes this job. Given that it is a position at the parent center, they do need a skill set that requires them to understand our programs deeply, to be able to speak to parents about our programs. Parents do have a right to make sure that they get all the information about the programs at point of enrollment. So we do want to make sure that we have someone with an MLL background who is able to speak to that. So the proposed changes reflect that.
So my question is, on the approved one that we already got approved, there's a salary listed here, but
Yes.
now it's gone.
Yep, I have a note
Yeah,
here.
we just
Okay,
got
that
a
was
note.
not,
Yeah,
that
it's
was
not on
omitted.
the
Okay.
proposed
So
one.
if
We're
you
gonna fix that
refer-
before we get back.
Yes,
Thank you.
absolutely. I
We
just
don't want
realized
that
I
happening,
noticed.
all right?
Goes to full committee.
Thank you.
So the one I'm looking at says in accordance with the Fall River Educators Association.
No, it's supposed to have a range.
A
from-
salary range, just a salary range, sorry, yeah.
Got it.
Need a range.
Just whatever it was there, I don't know, it's probably the same, right?
Exactly,
It's the
for
same.
now.
Okay.
Yes.
70.
We'll get
48.
it.
Oh, it's a pretty, that's actually a pretty large range. Okay, 48 to 80.
Yeah, it's on the last one.
First year to,
First year to whatever, yeah.
Right. I
Let's
do
hope we get a
want,
first year.
I do want to be clear that because this is a
Kidding.
teaching position, they follow the teacher's contract.
Okay.
Which means that we do have to provide our busiest season for this human is summer. And so we do need to compensate additional people to come in the summer and do this job in the summer. So that is,
Which we've been doing.
which we've been doing.
For years.
But I just want to be clear that this doesn't take that away.
Okay, gotcha.
But we have been doing that, correct.
Would that be in addition to the people we have in place coming in the summer, or would it be this position?
So we've always hired people to come in and screen students in the summer.
Okay.
So this position does it during the year, and then we will still need to have people come in during the summer.
We've always
have-
had
yeah.
a person.
Yep.
That person left, and that position has remained unfilled.
Right.
What we've done is, it was an opportunity for us to, the job responsibilities are different than a typical classroom teacher, so we wanted the job description to match what they actually do there. But it's a FREA teacher position that works the teacher schedule.
Yep.
And then what we've done for years is we pay stipends for people to work hours.
That's what I was getting at.
pace.
Who are those people?
Yes, well, usually that's some of our ESL teachers that work in the summer that come in, they split
this
up.
purpose.
To
But,
test.
but those
Do the testing
positions
piece.
will still be
Yes,
available in
yes.
supporting this position?
Yes.
Correct?
They have to be, because
Okay.
teacher contract doesn't work throughout the summer.
So because they're part of that.
No, I didn't know if
that-
you're gonna eliminate.
No.
You can't, because it's the busiest time, and there are a lot of
Busiest
kids coming
season.
in to be tested.
So in addition to all those temporary stipend people.
Well, this
be
is
position.
not, we've had a full-time position
Yep.
there, that's budgeted, full-time
We
position.
just lost 'em.
What we're just
Okay.
doing is making the job description more specific to their
Okay.
duties.
And because this falls under the FRA, it cannot be a full year-round
Yes,
position.
it's not year-round, it's
Okay.
not an S9 position.
I'm on board. Mr. Dias?
I'm also on board with the changes in the description. I just wanted to follow back up. So if we refer this, we're referring it with the salary
Yes.
range of 48 to 80.
We'll amend it with the correct salary range. Why don't we just say amend it, we'll refer it with the correct salary range.
We just don't know it
Noted on
right now.
there.
Okay.
I'll make sure
We'll
that
say
that's the right
motion
number.
to refer with the correct updated salary
Yes.
range.
Second.
Roll.
Mr. Dias?
Yes.
Ms. Larrabee?
Yes.
Ms. Pereira?
Yes.
Okay. 3-4, discussion vote refer partnership professional development. Who is tackling that?
So it's me again.
Okay, global education.
Global Education Solutions, that is a consultant that we are hoping to be able to engage to help us continue to build our DLE program. Unfortunately, we still do have quite a bit of work to do around dual language.
It was evident in the findings. It was evident. Thank you.
So,
That was Tuesday.
we do have some work to do around that. And another thing that Global Education Solutions is helping us, or will be helping us with, is our international recruitment. We are, as you guys know, we already do some international partnerships with the Spanish Embassy. We are extending that to a partnership with Colombia. What's interesting about teachers from Colombia is that their educational system is a bit like ours. In the long term, we really would like to be able to offer an educational exchange, which means that we could potentially send a Fall River teacher to Colombia to teach for a year, while a Colombian teacher would come here. That's not gonna happen next year, but.
I was gonna say, we need to get them to come forward first.
But.
Hold on, Lisa.
And we do have a lot of interest from Colombian teachers to come here. Global Education Solutions is, in their proposal, is also suggesting that they help with vetting of those candidates a little bit. The consultant has a reach into the Colombian schools, and he is able to interview people from Colombia. He is bilingual, and he is able to sort of vet the credentials of some of our Colombian candidates. So in my mind, the contract in front of you is very much a bargain price for what a lot of consultants charge. If you look into partnerships with some of the other consultancy agencies for what Global Education Solutions is providing, it feels like a very reasonable price to me.
I mean, after reading this, this weekend, the findings were disheartening, you know, and I love the program, but just seeing that we need that much help, I want to get the help. Whatever we need to do to support this program, I think we need it in the district. I mean, that's all I have.
I mean, we're lagging, it's tough,
Yeah, it's tough, it's a tough program.
Brockton
It's
is
a tough program.
moving forward, even New Bedford, so
Yeah.
our neighboring schools are certainly, and one of DESI's priorities this year is dual language. It's
Right.
bilingualism for everybody, that's sort of their number one
Yeah.
flagship thing that they are pushing, so I feel in a district that serves as many multilingual learners as we do, we just have to make it,
We
just have to make it
don't have a
successful.
choice.
We gotta keep,
Right.
gotta do what we have to do.
I mean, one of the biggest obstacles is finding the staff, right? Finding the people, you know, keeping them. It's not an easy program, and I definitely acknowledge that. And hopefully we can figure it out, because I think it's such an important program to have in this district. It's,
We're definitely
we
gonna
gotta figure it out. That's all I have on it. I mean, Mr. Dias, anything?
Motion to refer?
Second.
Isn't there a second?
Yeah, there
please?
is.
Yep.
Oh,
Oh,
sorry.
there is a second.
Me again.
Oh,
Yeah, let me get out of this one. Welcome back,
I don't remember
Stephanie.
seeing yours, Stephanie.
That's
Save the
just
best for
right
last.
here. I can,
Oh, right here.
yeah, I'm on the computer. I'm on the computer. All right.
So, right, this current year, we do have professional development by Amplify. I showed you the data with the teacher and student outcomes. And so that professional development is direct to coaches, to principals, and to teachers. That professional development comes in many forms: modeling, planning alongside teachers, observation and feedback, non-evaluatory observation and feedback, as well as professional development. And so this particular quote speaks to an overview for leaders and for teachers. And so, speaking to what Mrs. Ferrero was saying earlier around onboarding, that would be the launch training that our current teachers received before launching the program. Additionally, there are the strengthen sessions. We were able to provide some of these this year, and that's just a chance for teachers to dig deeper into the program and the pedagogy of the program, so that implementation improves and our teacher and student outcomes improve. And then the coaching is 1 hour per school. No, I'm sorry, 1 day per school for the large schools. And then our smaller schools, Henry Lord, Talbot, Stone, and RPA. Sorry, I'm lying to you. Henry Lord, Doran, Stone, and RPA. I've partnered them up so they get a half day each. And then our larger schools, Talbot, Morton, and Cuss, get a full day of coaching. And in that full day, they're dealing with all of those parties. They're supporting all of those parties. So this is a current service that we provide our teachers, and it's just a continuation of that.
Is there any data?
That shows that it's
Yeah,
working?
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, sure. I mean, we looked at the teacher and student outcomes
Yep,
data for
so all
year
that-
one.
That's the data that
Yes,
follows this right
yeah.
here. Okay. All right, gotcha. All right.
I have other data sources,
Yeah.
but they speak to specifics in terms of teachers.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I did not include that.
Like feedback and,
Well, no, more around like with the coach, not necessarily the teacher name, but what the coaching was all about in that particular school on that particular day. And so,
yeah,
yeah,
okay.
it's more granular.
Nick,
Motion to
just one
refer.
question, like
Sorry.
and overall I'm supportive, I'm just trying to digest the coaching, so 5, because it's a big chunk of change, so
It's 5 on-site visits a month,
A
so
month.
it's 9 over the course of 9 months.
okay, you think that's all that coaching, you think that's gonna be really helpful? Or-
I've seen it. It's very similar to what Carnegie has, where it's direct teacher and leader support.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Shep,
I have no more questions.
okay. Motion?
I'm making a motion to refer to full committee.
Second.
Roll.
Mr. Dias?
Yes.
Ms. Larrabee?
Yes.
Ms. Pereira?
Yes.
On to new business. Is there any new business? Last time, any new business? Madam Superintendent, this is your last instructional meeting. Congratulations. Okay.
You feel free to come anyway.
Come on in. We'll take this.
I was just telling Tracy, oh, make sure you get this, this, and this, because this is gonna be for July.
Because I won't be back.
I'm sure she'll be on the phone.
Yeah.
Motion to adjourn, one of you?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Roll call, Deborah.
Mr. Dias?
Yes.
Ms. Larrabee?
Yes.
Ms. Pereira?
Yes.
Part of it.